I'm constantly like redefining who I am, and I've always done that, even when it wasn't consciously.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
This is Nick from the New York City Men's Circle, and you're checking out the Council of Dudes podcast.
And here we go.
When did you get into like stoicism?
Man, I can't put a date on it. I'd say I started all like my self-development journey. It's probably around 2011-ish. And it was actually podcasts that got me started.
Yeah.
Simple things like Lewis Howes and those guys. And slowly was like, my mind was opened up to different things. Growing up in Queens, in the New York City school system, wasn't exposed to a lot of different concepts, right? And so it wasn't until much later that I was able to, like myself, look for things, which ultimately led to all this stuff that we're doing here. Was a word and stuff, but stoicism probably hit me with meditations. Somebody said, "Hey, read it." Somewhere along that path, and there's no looking back after that.
What was the first thing you did in your personal development journey? Was there something like, was it journaling, meditating, kind of just managing your thoughts? Was there something specifically that you started with, like an on-ramp?
Meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation.
Yeah.
Headspace app,
Could you move the mic a little bit closer to you? I don't know if it's picking up everything, Nate? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, sorry.
All right, sweet.
Okay.
Meditation and prayer.
Yeah.
Or like the gates to this world of the inner world, rather, right? And I was looking for something. I didn't know what it was. I think I was missing something too. Now I understand. People don't miss things; they're always complete.
Right.
But I felt like I was shorthanded, I'd say, and so I was looking for something, and I was looking in all different types of places, right? Whether it was books and podcasts, movies, other types of like organizations and fraternities, until about 2019 is when I was really first exposed to Sacred Sons and what they do. And I bounced around a little bit, different groups, Man Tribe and Trevor Bone, if you're familiar with him and his group. Ultimately landed back at Sons, and man, it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it seems like we're, that journey that, for me was meditating as well. I stepped onto that, and it was this realization that I'm in a loop of life and I'm on this treadmill of this hamster wheel. And it was realizing that this is all I do. I go to work and make a living. And it seemed it felt like there was a void in that. It felt like there was something that in that transaction, it just felt like that's it. Like it felt very short of me, right? Of my capacities, of what I really want to do with the world and explore and see and learn. And meditating for me as well was this on-ramp of like, okay, let's, I guess, slow things down maybe. You're not, and you said like, the education system, and we're not taught these things. I mean, like now my kids, they have a lady that comes in, they teach them rocket breathing and, the star breath and stuff like that. So it's slowly integrated into the education system. But a lot of these things that, you and I do, and especially for men, it seems like it has to be this your own self-discovery. At least, when it wasn't around as much that we're seeing now. It's becoming more prevalent, the conversations, the journey within. But it does feel like there's something missing. And I wonder, like, is that just an innate human feeling? Do we all feel that there's something missing and the journey is really just going out and finding out what it is?
I'd lean towards saying yes.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you look at like the hero's journey, that it's written in everything. That journey, the that looking for the adventure, right? The seeking, the leaving of the home of the mother, to go and find whatever it is, the man or whoever our hero is. So yeah, I'd say yeah. I think it's an innate thing. And I don't know if everyone's lucky enough to have the ability, opportunity, or even the courage to go and do that. But I think everyone's got a little something in there.
So you start meditating, you start bouncing into a few different groups. You find yourself back into Sacred Sons, which is a men's group. More, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, way more on the spiritual side of things, right?
Yeah.
Not conventional spirituality, but definitely more into the woo-woo, if you will.
I don't know if woo-woo is the word I would use, but definitely more in touch with earlier thoughts of indigenous thought, of being more in tune with what's around us in a natural way. And so, yeah, a lot of that showed up in those containers because of, I think, the men who made the container up.
Right.
And I think it was just something that evolved into that, It is founded in the desert in California.
Right.
So very different from what we do out here. Yeah. And that's kind of like what drew me to it too. It was like, wow, these guys are just yelling at each other and laughing and dancing and whatever, shirtless in California somewhere. And my first event out there, some dude like grabbed a rattlesnake out of the bush and put it away. It was wild, man. I loved it.
What did you love about it?
I showed up in Jordans and like everyone's barefoot in the sand. What I loved about it was the liberation, like the freedom I saw in some of these people. Right? It wasn't it was authentic. Right? It wasn't curated in any way.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting because you do see, especially now, so a lot of this in the men's space, a lot of curated, perfect word, curated experiences, curated energy, and that authenticity piece, it becomes very tangible, right? We have that radar within us that's very like bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you could step into something that's seemingly so different, right, from what you're used to growing up in the city, right, and then going into space, but really feeling that authenticity piece. That's got to be huge.
Yeah. I'm not saying it existed, 100% across everyone,
of course,
right? But yeah, they really held a good, like, safe container. It was refreshing. I never experienced something like that earlier.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I met Nick Martinez, the co-founder of the New York City Men's Circle. And we met at a Sacred Sons event up in Buffalo. And man, we just came back, brought it back. I wasn't aware of men's work being a thing out here. But there's a lot of groups out here. It was the big ones like MDI and Everyman and some other ones. You were probably around too. Modern Renaissance, man, they're great. But I just wasn't exposed to that kind of stuff until And so I came back gung ho, man. It was like, I'm bringing this flag back to the East Coast. We were dubbed the New York Knicks, two of us, right? And I still very much, I love all those guys over there, and we collaborate here now. I want to do another immersion. They call them like a 2-day events this year, and I'm looking to plan that. But the New York City Men's Circle is something that we're really, gung-ho about, as hard as it's been.
Yeah.
The men's work has been one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. Why so?
I mean, fatherhood's hard, right? Maybe the hardest thing. Marriage, right? Give me a second. But then there's men's work, dude.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
Because it's so many different things at the same time. It's leadership. It's event planning. It's admin work.
Yeah.
And it's me still doing the work myself.
Yep.
Right. And making sure that the guys in the space, like, that we're all on the level. Right. I remember going into men's work myself as like this, like, big-eyed, fresh, seeing some of these guys up there speaking, and I was like, wow, they're amazing. And then you get to know them, and they're just another guy doing the work. They just been there 2 years more than you've been there, you know? And so it's hard because I can see the realization in some of the guys who come into the circle who are like, oh man, Nick knows what he's talking about. And then on the day where Nick doesn't know what he's talking about, I see the glimmer.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm just another guy.
Right.
I just have, a little more capacity to do so I think what men's work has done for me, the most important thing it's done for me, is allowed me to increase my capacity for things and, like, be aware of where I'm at. All right. Where I'm running. Am I running on all cylinders? Because I'm the most fulfilled when I'm, like, all 8 cylinders running, right?
Yeah, of course.
Most happy, most energetic. And I'm not always that.
Sure.
We have a lot of half-assed days, right? And so I now have the awareness, because of all the practices and the introspection that happens. I know when I'm half-assing it, right? And so what I've been able to do is just realize that I have more capacity than someone else to do more things, and that's why I admin or co-found it and run it and do these things.
Yeah.
It's the only difference between me and another guy in that circle.
Yeah, of course. Of
Right.
course. How did you take the barefoot in the desert in California vibe and bring it to New York City? Because again, there's an authenticity there that might translate better in that atmosphere with that type of mindset and those type of guys.
Yeah.
And then bringing that into the New York City kind of energy, it's a different thing, right? New York is a very different state of awareness. I think people are definitely more closed-minded. Men are definitely more, maybe it's just the cold weather outside, I don't know, but there's a little bit more of a chip on the shoulder seemingly for everybody. So how do you bring that energy out of a California state of mind, right, with the no shoes and the rattlesnake in the bush, and how do you translate that to, like, New York City?
So I'm going to counter you for a little bit.
Sure, yeah, please.
New York is a tough, like, shell or crack, right? Is that the question? Tough nut or
Crack,
tough
something.
whatever. But it's just tough on the outside.
Sure.
It's pure and real and authentic on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
What I've experienced, not 100% on the West Coast, is though it might be a little, easier, but there's a lot of mush and confusion.
Sure.
Less authenticity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so I think it's just getting the guys in the door here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a sense of community. There's people shoveling, for those who don't know, New York was hit with a blizzard yesterday, the hour. People shoveling neighbors, yards, and we've got it going on here.
Right.
It's just, there is that thread of, cold-shoulderedness.
Yeah.
But once the men come through the door, it's a different story.
Yeah. How did you facilitate your first group? Like, what was your process in regards to getting people in the door? Because for me, it was, wow, I realized there's something that's, someone said to me, you should start a men's group. I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. Yeah. And I reached out to everyone I had that, I call it like the stepbrothers conversation, where like almost, I don't know how to hug you, right? I don't know how to, it's not the water cooler, but it's not like the, wow, I'm fucking struggling, dude, right?
It's a little deeper.
Yeah, it's a little deeper than the surface level. So I just invited everyone I had that conversation with. And then it was like 24 guys. I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's great, man.
Yeah, there's something here, right? So how did you start that first? Was that just your own awareness of like, hey, who have I had these conversations with? Or
I've always been the type of person where people will come to me to have that conversation, right? And so having the experience out with the Sons, coming back to New York with it, I had 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 people that I could invite, and 2 showed up. And that was our first men's circle, was a square people. And it worked even with those 2 people there, and it grew and it grew. And then, with the support of Sacred Sons, doing those 2-day immersions, we did about 6 or 7 of them, over the course of like 2 years. They have a large marketing budget, things like that. We would have 19, 20 people in a room, and for 2 days, right? So we're sitting there with 2 days, pounding them with all this like emotional work and celebration and connection, and then they would hang around. And so the New York City Men's Circle went from 4 guys to like 60 something at one point. And so today the numbers have dwindled drastically, and we can get into that if you'd like.
Sure.
Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, it was just, just showing up, dude.
Yeah.
That's really it. If anybody takes anything away from this conversation tonight, is to show up. Because I think men's work is like, there's 3 legs, right? It's like showing up, then there's how you show up, and then it's like how you leave, which is like showing up out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The events, the circles, the couch, all that is great. But the actual work happens out there. When you go home, to the kids, to the wife, to the job, to the whatever. That's where it matters most.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, it's probably it's one of the harder things to do, especially when you're kind of a 1-man show or 2-man show and you're doing all that background stuff. It becomes a heavier lift. I've shared this story multiple times, but for me, at one of the later groups, I was sitting there and I saw this literal golden thread go through the entire room, going through every guy, and it was just dancing around the room like this, just going like Donnie Darko. And I'm sitting there, and I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? There's no alcohol, no psychedelics, nothing. And I go home and I tell my wife, I was like, I feel so fulfilled. I feel like I just had a Thanksgiving dinner. That's the feeling I'm going after in life. And then, the serendipities line up and you hear about like Carl Jung and the Golden Shadow and Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan's talking about the golden thread and all this. I'm like, that's the thing I felt. Like, that's it right there. So when you step into this space of service, right? And there's a quote from Muhammad Ali, I think, on the wall that says like your rent for, I don't know, I'll butcher it, but it's like being of service to other people is the rent you pay for being your time on earth. When you do step into the space of being of service, it becomes such a different feeling, right? That feeling of, as that individual who's going on the hero's journey to go on this discovery, it almost like you step into this new version of that, right? Because you're now surrounded by people and you're having conversations and it's like invigorating and it's fueling you. And now you're like, oh, I have to keep on going. Like it becomes this like, it almost like, and I know you do jiu-jitsu and we'll definitely get into that, but it becomes like this own ecosystem of itself, similar to jiu-jitsu in that regard.
Yeah. Like a runner's high?
Like a runner's high. Yeah. But it's like, you could almost always have it because you know it's a part of you now.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And it's good that it's there because service is a difficult thing, right? And so when it fulfills someone and they feel good about it, maybe they'll keep the cycle going.
Yeah.
Right. It could be a tricky slope. You know, I've seen people lead things just to be the center of attention.
Sure.
And I feel like the best facilitator for something, especially a men's group, is invisible, right? But yeah, I felt that before. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the men's space, because there's, you know, the bigger part of it is the ego, right? We could talk about that again. It gets thrown around. It's good. There's probably a book in here about the ego. There's probably 4 books in here about the ego, but it becomes, especially in the men's space, where there is this egoic nature of the facilitator, right? And good, bad, or indifferent, it can be helpful. It can be of service, right? But then there's that authenticity piece where that ego kind of starts to steer things. And that's where all of a sudden you start to look and go, oh, you're full of shit. Right. And I'm sure being in the men's space, I could think of a few people. I'm sure you can think of a few people. Yeah. There's realization of like, oh, the emperor's not wearing any clothes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like deflating in some regards. Or at least I find it to be deflating, because not that you hold people to a higher standard, but you just like, right. And that could be on like the biggest scale or on rudimentary scales, but there is this persona that comes through that even, you know, as a facilitator, you have to be aware of it. You're like, is this becoming about me? Right. You know what I mean? Like, what is this about here? You know? So it is a hard thing to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. And it happened. And it's exactly what we spoke about just earlier.
Oh yeah.
Seeing guys realize about me that I'm just another guy doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important to realize that perfect men, not that they don't exist, but perfect men don't show up to men's work.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a circle of, you know, we've got guys from all walks of life.
Sure.
I'm not going to list them out, but lots of shadow, right? And ego is a prevalent one. Or I don't want to use ego as a shadow, the word ego, right? But that self-centeredness. Yeah, because ego can be positive too. So,
yeah.
Self-centeredness as shadow is prevalent, you know, and it's not just men's work. It's not just men, right? There's a lot of other facilitators in other spaces, even in work culture, right? In the corporate world, you come across that all the time too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So so you go out, you bring back the men's work, you start doing it. What is that shift for you where you're like, oh, this is now going to be like a part of me. Like, this is no longer like, oh, I'm going to try this out. Like, this is now a part of what I do. This is a part of my identity.
So I got into men's work because, like I said, I was looking for something. But what catapulted my journey into sort of like the leadership side of it, where I wasn't a participant anymore, was like losing 2 important men in my life, right? One took his own life, and then my dad got sick with like pneumonia from COVID, passed away in like 10 days, gone, right? No time. And so I was hit with like grief in 1 year, with like so many questions and anger, and then boom, less than a year later, the second hit happens. And so men's work came into, it was a part of my life already, but gave me the tools that I needed to deal with those blows.
Right.
And so I wanted to, as a recipient of those gifts, be able to pass them on. And when I say men's work is one of the hardest things I've done, is because I was given the opportunity, let's call it that, to pass those gifts on in ways where, like, we had a man in our circle after the fact who took his own life. And then we had another man who, by the grace of God, was speaking to another brother in the circle, went missing, and then another other man was able to, call the authorities, and we found them. All great, happy ending, whatever the case is. And so, I lost my train of thought there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about how your journey to doing the men's work and shifting from being a participant to a facilitator was due to having these two losses in your life, and then being able to step into that role and giving those experiences as a gift, if you will, for those guys who might go through something similar to that.
Yeah. And so that's what it was given to me.
Yeah.
It was giving that fulfillment.
Yeah.
Of passing that gift along.
Yeah.
The tools.
It's funny because when you're in those groups and one guy brings up something, I'm sure you could attest to this. One guy brings up something, right? Whatever it may be. And all of a sudden someone's like, oh, I went through it's, and I've seen one of the most powerful things I've seen in doing this work was there's a guy in here who's going something with his dad. And there's another guy in here who's going something with his daughter. And by proxy, they basically had the conversation that they needed to have with that other person through each other. And everybody in the room was like, unspoken, these guys need this moment. And it went on. And as a facilitator, you kind of always want to step in and be like, okay, like we're going to, you know what I mean? Like you do it in a respectful way, or you try to find that window where you try to shift the gears or give someone else an opportunity. But it was such an unspoken thing amongst like everybody in the room. It was just like, these guys need this right now. And we're just going to let them have it, let them have this moment, let them share, let them kind of be in this moment. And it's hard because, again, as a facilitator, not a participant, you realize, the energy that's happening, and you have to be like, conducting an orchestra.
Absolutely.
You have to, move the energy here and there. And, I love when I get text messages next to me like, hey, was I too much last night? I'm like, no, dude, you were fine because you were exactly who you needed to be. And someone in that group, whether they said it or they didn't, needed you to be that version of yourself because
man, just witnessing it
100%. It's so powerful. And again, it's stepping into that facilitator role, which is a very different thing to orchestrate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll actually do that for people. We'll and it's been done to me too, is like we'll be in a circle and doing something comes up, and then like I was given the opportunity to choose a man who I felt represented the person I need to speak to as like a proxy.
Yeah.
And now this man steps in front of you, right?
It's an exercise you guys do.
It's an exercise, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. He'll step in front of you and there's, clear communication and boundaries, right? It's like, this is not about you. This is about me, right? The facilitator says this. So this is not about you, the person who steps in. This is purely about this man and what he needs to say to this other person, right? There's no touching, there's no yelling in someone's ear or whatever the case is. And you're given the opportunity to say what you need to say. Loud, screaming, crying, whatever the case is. And
interesting.
Watching that can be healing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting dynamic to add into it. And are people receptive of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've never done anything like that in the group. Usually the group just kind of, we do the check-in thing, and then you've joined us.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to add that element to it, which is a real.
Yeah, you got to come to the immersion.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. I have no problem doing.
Do a lot. We're on our feet a lot.
Yeah,
we're moving. We're doing. It's good.
yeah. When you started the group, what was the response from like the people around you? Because anytime you and again, that's kind of part and parcel to your own individual journey, I imagine, right? You're on this journey of the self, you're learning about yourself, you're kind of discovering new versions of yourself, you're stepping into these new roles and you're embodying this new version of you. And also now you're starting to do this group and you're facilitating. What's the response of the people around you? Because obviously the tale as old as time is that, well, everyone around you is going to think you're fucking crazy. You've lost your mind. What are you doing? You're wasting your time.
There's definitely lots of that.
Yeah.
Not everybody understood it.
Yeah.
All right. And it's hard to understand it unless you're there. I have a hard time explaining it sometimes because also don't forget, it's an individual experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same for me as it's going to be for you and for everybody in the same circle. I could do the same exercises with the same group of people on a different day and it'll be a different experience.
Yeah.
Right. Just like not Marcus. It was a Greek philosopher who said, like, you can't step into the same river twice.
Epictetus.
Yeah. So you can't explain men's work to somebody. You can tell them, yeah, I create these, spaces that are safe for men, non-judgmental, so they can come and we help each other through life's ups and downs, and that's like the elevator pitch or whatever the case you want to call it, like the surface level explanation of it. But to sit in a group, and especially like the way we'll facilitate something over a couple of days where we really go deep, right, into a lot of like the traumatic experiences, whatever you want to call it. Like it's not something I can explain to someone, and so like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's not for me to explain to you.
Right.
It's not my job.
Right. Do you are you naturally step into those spaces on your own? Is it something that you'll kind of like, if I'm up at like, just call it like 2:00 in the morning, I wake up and I can't fall back asleep, I'm going down the rabbit holes of myself. I'm like, all right, here we go. We're going to take the elevator to the bottom floor and we're going to look at all this shit. And that will keep me up till 4:30 until my alarm goes off. So in that seeking of growth,
yeah,
do you naturally go to those places? Or like, do you go the darker end of it? Yeah.
I do, especially after an event, after a raised voice, after, something I ate that I wasn't supposed to, these little things that, or patterns that I might fall back into. I'll be like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What are we repeating? What are we exhibiting? And so, yeah, the introspection, that word I keep using is a powerful tool. And I think it's something that we should all practice more of. It was like, okay, you see, when you point the finger, they say 3 point back.
Yeah.
Right. And so, when I get angry at something or someone, I'll say, okay, how am I like that?
Yeah.
What about that is activating me? Right. How do I show up in the same way? Right? Is that person doing this because I do it to them? Right? So there's so many questions we can ask to unpack things, So journaling is great for that.
Yeah.
If you have the questions after like 5 years of men's work, the questions are there, right? I'm asking everybody else. So yes, naturally, and just like from working on it, the inquiries come.
Yeah. And it gets uncomfortable. And there's a quote behind you: all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And yeah. We could drop any of these microphones with one of these quotes in the room. But there's so much of sitting with yourself, journaling, meditating, men's work, and then taking that information and that data and the integration, right? So now you have to go out, like you said, all this stuff is all well and good in the space and in the vacuum of a men's group or a retreat or whatever it is. But now you go out into the world, and what are you doing with the information? What are you doing with what you learned from someone else and their experiences? How are you showing up in this new way that's more aligned of who you want to be and detached from the version of yourself that you no longer want to be? And that's the real work, right? The real work isn't inside the container in the sensory deprivation tank or on the jiu-jitsu mat, right? It's outside in the real world.
You know what's really tricky, actually, about that phase, that third leg, is like, all right, cool. I now have a set of tools that I can use, right? Some people, I myself included, have fallen into the trap of like, okay, now I expect this person to understand too. But they weren't at the men's weekend. They don't know what I did or how I'm learning to communicate now, right? And so when you go back to somebody's, home that you share with, like, and you have all these new tools, like there's work that needs to be done because they're not on the same page anymore, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, people expect you to show up as a certain way,
right?
And when you
they
break that,
the old version of you,
yeah, of course,
they don't like this new version,
right?
Because that was comfortable, even if it might have sucked, right? That's where that's where our mode of like operating. That's where we were at, and we're comfortable there. But and you come back now, you're all like, calm, peaceful, and they trigger you, and then you activate, or now you're expecting them to be calm, like you.
Yeah,
and they're not, because they weren't there with you. And so there's more,
or even if it's not a retreat specifically, but they haven't done the work, right?
Could have been a book you read on the train, whatever.
Right. Exactly.
They don't have the same information.
It's just a new frequency that you're on, and you're like, and they're just like, right? And it's hard because that can be that could be your wife, that could be your husband, that could be your parents, that could be your kids, that could be your coworkers. You start to operate on a new frequency, and you start to embody that frequency, and then that embodiment becomes who you are as a person.
Right.
And now you start showing up, 6 out of 10 times that way, 8 out of 10 times that way, right? All of a sudden you start to, it's rocking people's realities in a sense. And for me, that was a very big line of demarcation, was realizing that I don't need to react to everything. I have the choice and the space in between, which when you read it in books, and you could read, The Power of Now, you can read all these books are like, there's a space in between, and it's timeless, and it goes on. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, tell me about the space. I want to know it. And then all of a sudden, once you experience it, you're like, it's infinity. Like, it's infinite. That moment between what happens and how you show up is infinite when you could slow down time. It's almost like, I think about like shooting an arrow, and like it's just dividing so finitely, I guess that's the word, right? That it almost goes on forever, right? That difference of space is almost infinity because it's just
one breath.
Right.
It's like the longest.
But it's the longest, and if you slice it down thin enough, like prosciutto di Parma, right? Like if you get it like so thin, you can look through it, it can go on forever.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Some prosciutto di Parma references gets everybody going. But it's true though. You realize that you could really carve out time and slow it down, and now you respond, and they're like, wait a minute, you're not acting the way I want you to, or the way I'm used to you acting.
Yeah. So imagine seeing these guys now dancing and prancing in the desert, and like, wow, they're so free, right? And then you go and you learn all these things, and then you come back, everything else is still the same. Another reason why men's work is so hard. Like, yes, join the circle. All right, for the guys listening right now, join the circle. But it's going to be brutal. If you do it, there's no right or wrong way. I don't want to say that if you do it the right way, but kind of, if you do it the right way, it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable to face yourself and go into those uncovered. But there comes a point, I mean, for me, there comes a point where it's like, yeah, that's the only thing there is to do now. Right. Like that, like everything else seems like it's all mirror. Right. So if anything is bothering me, triggering me, frustrating me, blah, 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 it's more about me. Right. And not in an egoic me, but in a very diluted, beaten down version of me that's like, oh, I got to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like the programming,
Yeah.
which is not me, right?
Right.
Like just examples I have from my past, be it parents or whatever, whoever, installed those programs in you or me. And you're just playing them out.
Yeah. So when did you realize that you were kind of, because there's like a before and after almost, that you realize again, it always, the goalposts are always moving. We know that. But there is a part where you step into this new version of you, but yet it feels like it's only the first step.
Yeah.
So what was that kind of experience like when you're always like, okay, I'm walking on this new path of life that I know seemingly inevitably never ends, always evolving, but I'm a new person. Did you have like a moment of clarity in that, or?
That's a tough question for me specifically because I'm always a new person. I don't want to like answer your question in a difficult way or anything like that, but I'm constantly like redefining who I am, and I've always done that, even when it wasn't consciously. All right, I was always, as an artist as a kid, and with work, right? I always tied my work to my identity really strong, and like I had to do a lot of work to do like uncouple that.
Yeah.
And so I found myself always trying to like, what's next, right? What's the next growth step? And so I can't really pinpoint but maybe in men's work specifically, it was probably that first weekend away, right? Because I had done men's work. We started in 2019. We went right into like all that remote culture.
Yeah.
Right? And I hadn't had, even as I was training to be a facilitator, I haven't had the opportunity to sit face to face with someone, eye to eye. And so that was life-changing for me.
Yeah. What we kind of spoke about a little bit before, you come back and now you're bringing this new version of reality home and the people around you. What's your wife's reaction? What's kind of everyone around you thinking, and what are they saying? Is it like, what the hell is going on with
my wife? Has kind of been on her own like personal development path alongside me as well, actually. She's in the women's circles and all that, and is actually starting her own with her friend. And so luckily enough, we found the work together. So she knew what was up. It wasn't easy for us either, because like we've had rough patches where I wasn't showing up the way I was supposed to, and then I had a men's circle to go facilitate.
Right.
She's like, "Where are you going? You're like, you can't even get your shit together." But yeah, and a good partner will point it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you read The Way of the Superior Man?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, naturally. That's an amazing read. And I think again, nowadays that book would be considered taboo, but there is something about your partner, whatever version of that you have, that they are there not to just coddle you and make things comfortable and nice and comfortable, but they're there to hold up this mirror for you. And it is, again, it's this very uncomfortable realization that, you get into a spat with your significant other and all of a sudden you have to sit back and go, nah, fuck. Right.
they're pointing out something that I didn't want to have, you know, like there is some truth and merit to that. And that isn't, again, that's part of the work as well, is that realization, sitting in that discomfort of, fuck, you're right, you know, and that's a good thing. But culturally, especially in the relationship dynamic or at, like, you know, movies and culture, it's like just always supposed to be perfect and everyone's always great and supportive and there's no problems and we're all growing together. And
in those scenarios, or because of that rather, those scenarios can feel emasculating.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
Right? So I'm programmed as this guy to like always be tough and whatever, and don't talk to me that way. And so when someone does and points it out to you, you're like, oh, are you saying I'm like less of a man?
Right.
You know? And it's important to realize that someone who cares about you, truly cares about you, will point these things out because they want you to be a better version of yourself. And so don't take it personally. Celebrate it, actually.
Yeah, we're doing, for the book club here, we're doing the 4 agreements.
Yeah.
And don't take it personal so we did the first 2. And then we're doing the next 2 and we're having another discussion on it. But we did, be impeccable with your words. And I really thought the don't take it personal would be the deep dive and we'd be like tearing that thing apart. It was the impeccable with your words that we were really unpacking this thing. And I was like, wow, I really thought don't take it personal. But not taking things personally is one of the most liberating yet difficult things that you could do. Because it's so easy to take it, and you want to take it personal. Yeah. You know, whether it be your ego or whatever version of you needs to feel validated and needs to feel seen and needs to feel heard, and you want to take it fucking personal. Like, you want to take it personal. But then there's something to that where if you're able to remove that and not take it personal, it becomes such a liberating and almost like a superpower where you're just, you know, like water off a duck's back.
So I've been lucky enough, because of my creative way of thinking, to become, I'm a designer, right? By trade, I'm a digital product designer. And so I design websites and apps, and I used to work for the US Open. I did all their stuff, and designers get bombarded with feedback, right? And it's how you improve. And so not taking those things personally, like, I've really been through it, right?
Yeah.
Through the ringer with feedback. Like, it's part of my work, right? And so, and outside of the men's work.
Right.
And so I know deep within me that the only way I can improve anything, whether it's me or a website or an app or anything, is by showing it to people and saying, what do you think? Does this work? Is it easy to use? Is it easy to learn? Right. And then they're like, oh no. And then they get confused. And then, oh, this doesn't work. This button doesn't, whatever. And you take that back, you redesign it, and you send it out again for more and more and more. And it's never done. A website is never done. An app is never done. A man is never done evolving. All right. So take the feedback. Take it. Don't take it personally, and use it. All right. Put it to good use.
Yeah. Constructive criticism, right? That is a difficult thing to sit with because, again, it's so easy to take that feedback personally and own it. And because there is some truth to it, right? There is some merit to what this person's saying, even if it's their perspective, even if it's their lens that they're looking at it through, and you may believe differently, them being able to say, there's a blotch there, or there's something funky here, or whatever, is the world, right? A microcosm of the world, not accepting you or your thing.
Yeah.
And that could be very, very hurtful if you're taking it personally, if you're not doing the work. But once you learn to not take it personal, you are able to take that information and just take it as that information.
I'm not saying change for anybody.
Right.
Right. but to make the conscious decision to be like, okay, this is what I've been given, and I'm choosing to actually, this is how I'm going to operate. Or, you know what, they're right. Let me try something new.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Vinny Brusco, founder and CEO of Agora Social Club. I'm also all of these things. Agora Social Club is Westchester County's hub for guys' mental fitness. Let me show you how we're revolutionizing the future of men's mental health. All accessible via key fob as a member, Agora Social Club seamlessly blends the community, comfortability, and convenience of a coffee shop, community workspace, gym, and recovery center. Since opening in April of 2024, Agora Social Club has helped hundreds of guys become better men. Through our men's groups, dads groups, community ruck walks, and 5Ks, guys are finding a deeper sense of connection through community. But don't just take my word for it. Check out our 5-star Google reviews where guys are sharing their transformative experiences. So what's next? We're looking for an investor to help us build Agora 2.0, a flagship location located right here in Larchmont, offering our members even more space, more amenities, and more community. By the end of 2030, we're targeting multiple locations in 4 major U.S. cities. We're excited to share our vision of the future of men's mental fitness.
When did you, because again, it seems like part and parcel to personal development comes Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So when did you get into jiu-jitsu?
Gosh, man, this is embarrassing. That's right. And because of like misalignment. Right?
Yeah, of course.
And shadows and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm 41. I started when I was 22.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a blue belt.
Yeah. Right.
Because so imagine that almost 20-year span, I have zero consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of years off, right? But my first role was when I was 22, with Shihan Dunn in Brooklyn, and Brian Glick, big names. I had no idea who these people were.
Yeah, of course.
No idea. I just got stuck in their class because I was a bridge painter back then, and I couldn't get into an evening class. So these, the big wigs, whatever, they were rolling in the morning when I can get there. And as a white belt, they just had pity, come into this class, whatever.
Right.
No idea who I was rolling with. But so that's when I started. And then finances, work, relationships, everything found its way between me and that. And I always had a passion for it. And I didn't have the will, I guess, the plan to actually execute on it until recently, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What do you think about it? Is jiu-jitsu what is it about it that's so addicting, right? Because you find guys that do it, it weeds out the ego for sure, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you find people that they find their way to it, and it's seemingly like it's just sinks its teeth into you, and it becomes so hard to, you don't even want to, but it would become so hard to cleaver that part of you off.
No.
Right? Like you don't want to, but if you're like, I gotta stop going to jiu-jitsu,
No.
And I guess you could say the same thing about the gym and, running and stuff like that. I get all that. But for me, and I think a lot of people who step into jiu-jitsu, there's something about that. Like I've done CrossFit. I've, had a really great stretch of running every day and out in the cold and all that stuff. But when I started doing jiu-jitsu, it's been like this constant, drip that's just always going on. It's like that will never go for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That will never go anywhere, all things considered. What is it about that, do you think, from just a healing standpoint or?
I think it might be the fact that you'll never be done.
Yeah.
There's no destination.
Yeah.
Think of the top guys, the coral belts. They're not done.
Right. Yeah. You get to black belt level, right? And then again, cultural perspective, you've arrived, right? You're like, oh, I'm black belt. I've done it.
Right.
right? And then you talk to black people like, oh, that's where it just starts. That's where the game starts. Like,
That's why a lot of blue belt polo, because they get through the white belt and they're like, oh,
yeah,
I have to come back.
yeah. The blue belt thing that's a real thing. That's a real thing for people. Like, it is a phenomenon. People get to blue belt. For those who don't practice jiu-jitsu, there's this, I guess, this initial wave of excitement that quickly gets completely choked out of you, and then it just becomes how much torture can I just put myself through on a daily or whatever it is, whatever basis it is, and how much am I okay at sucking at this thing for a really long time. And then all of a sudden people get their blue belt and it seems like there's this massive drop-off rate, because I don't know if they just feel like they've arrived, or I don't know what that is, because I haven't stopped training since I started. But you do see it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's never done. And just like, life, like what we're talking about is like, there's always somewhere, a new point of progress, a new goal to reach.
Yeah. And you could allocate your energy. Like, I'm thinking about just like, I'll go through months and I'm just going to focus on this thing, side control, whatever it is. And I'll focus for a month, 2 months, 3 months. I'll get through, and they're like, all right, now I'm going to try to focus on open guard. Should work on this. And then you start, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, but wait, then there's this. I've started to black belt that train quite often. And we're just talking about like these transitions and belly down and turtle and going back into cycle, all this stuff. And it's just like you find these holes in yourself, in your game. You're like, I'm going to patch that. But while you're patching that hole, there's like 6 other ones that are starting to open up. You're like, oh, wait, hold on. There's all these other things I need to focus on. Yeah. So it takes like this constant reevaluation.
One of those open world video games where you take a few steps and then more starts to render, and then you start seeing more places to go.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh yeah, I can't do this all, so I have to stick to the main mission. But what is the main mission, right? Like, what is the main purpose of doing this stuff? Going to the men's groups, going to the retreats, doing jiu-jitsu. What is the main purpose of all of it? Because you can get caught up in the side missions. You can get caught up in I got to learn how to hit an omoplata and learn how to do this thing. And I got to learn how to communicate this way. And I have to go to this retreat, because all of a sudden now you become so infatuated with the growth that you're actually not growing at all. And you're just doing all the, the podcast, you're reading all the books, but you're actually not doing any of the actual work. And that becomes a circle in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, study is study, but being in the arena, very different, right?
Yeah,
and so, and to be like super cliche or whatever, sometimes it's just the journey that's the point, right?
Yeah,
and so, just being there on the mat is the whole point of it all.
Yeah,
not the belt, not the maneuvers. It's just being there, doing something difficult.
Yeah,
being on the couch with another 15 new guys and pouring your heart out. It's just being there.
Yeah. When you're in the group and you're facilitating, it's very easy for it to just become a complaint session, right? Where guys are just like, blah, blah, and just complaining, right? And I think that's very important. I think it's very important for people to unpack their stuff, talk about their stuff. But we had a meeting last week, and one of the guys it doesn't feel, and I always leave and I wonder that. I said, did this just turn to like a bitching fest? Like, everyone just fucking complain. And he brought up a really great point, and this is how I've always perceived it. And I wonder, from your lens of a facilitator, your lens of it, is it's not so much just complaining or bitching, it's just gaining further insight and perspective. So what are your thoughts on how do you sift through that and realize, oh, we're all just kind of in this pity party, versus we're gaining some new perspective on things that's really of service?
I think it comes down to language. Right? We have clear agreements, in our circles. And one of them is that we will, and this comes from Sacred Sons, and we've totally adopted it. Sorry. I language, I statements, right? That's one of our agreements. When I speak in circle, I don't say us guys. I don't say, you know how men will, you know how you will do this. You know when your wife will, no, nothing like that. It's always I, right? I do this. My wife. I experience. I feel. I saw this. I did this, right? And we'll remind someone when they're not doing that, right? So we'll call them out on it. There's a joke in Sons like an owl sound. We'll say who, like who are you talking about, right? So when you hear the who, you have to like backtrack and talk about your experience from your perspective, right? And that's part of owning your story. And now when a man starts talking in that manner, from that perspective, the conversation changes from a bitchin' fest to a list of things that I did and experienced, right? And that change in ownership, or rather the taking on of ownership, as opposed to like, this is what the world is doing to me, or this is how the world works. This is how I work, you know? And I think that's important to start off any meeting with those like clear parameters and frameworks. So it doesn't turn into like a complaint party.
Yeah. What other things do you implement in your particular group? So if someone like were to come to a group, what would they expect? Like like on first time I'm coming to your group, what am I walking into?
The agreements?
Yeah.
Confidentiality.
Yeah.
Right? We literally had a guy in our school group break that. And like leadership is not about people liking you. And we had to remove him after about a week or so of like deliberation and you know, I mean, the guy came back and told us, I showed someone this message, right? And so other men were uncomfortable, right? Another guy was like, if it doesn't go, I'm leaving. Or, you know, we're there to create a safe space. And if you're not part of that, you know, you can't be there.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro. You know? And he left bitching and complaining and kicking and screaming, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
You knew from day one and from many, many, many months ago that this is how we operate. And so, yeah, so confidentiality is one of them. Honesty is another, because you're just lying to yourself. Right. Acceptance, right? Which is not tolerance, right?
Right.
We
Sure.
don't tolerate your bullshit, but we accept the darker parts of you, and you know, nobody's gonna snitch on you to the law, whatever the case is.
Right.
The good, the bad, the ugly. It's accepted. It's here. This is what this is for. This is the place where it comes to die or be put to rest, to be honored, to be thanked, and to be let go. Right. And then we have safety, or the Sons call it sacred, right? And that's keeping the container safe or sacred. And there's different ways of doing that. And it's like, you know, we're not talking over each other, right? You know, like you explained the other day, actually, in circle, when you were like, if you agree or you resonate with something with somebody, you know, you could raise your hand, you could, whatever the case is. Yeah. That's just so you don't interrupt the other guy while he's talking, right? And insert your story into his.
Right.
And so, and then that ownership piece, because now I'm not making my story yours with the ownership piece. I'm not dragging you in, so it's less uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I love all of it, and it all kind of it all makes sense, obviously, right? And then from my experience, it almost all comes to that through just the space itself, right? And I think you know, creating that atmosphere where people feel comfortable saying, I, right?
Mhm.
I feel like this, I feel like that. And that comes from the facilitator, right? Setting some of those expectations, but then also, again, kind of go back to that earlier point of like orchestrating this energy throughout the room. And whether it be 2 guys, 13 guys, 60 guys, 24, whatever it is, it gets harder, but then also easier because all of a sudden it becomes like the ecosystem.
Yeah, it becomes culture.
Yeah.
It becomes a way of doing things.
Yeah.
You know, we've had, you know, like the convergence was like anywhere between 200 and 500 people on the campground, and well, there's 20 of us, and we're taking these groups around, and everybody's, you know, following along
Yeah.
under this preset, you know, these frameworks.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier in regards to people, I guess we'll just frame it as attendance being down, right? What do you attribute that to?
Yeah. Actually wrote a post about this the other day. Not the other day, but a while ago. I've seen many types of men come through the door, let's say, but there's 2 types for me, and I put it this way: there's the sun men, and then there's the cloud men, and they're both welcome and they're both necessary for a men's circle to function, right? There's the sun guys, men who show up 365. No matter what's going on in their life, they're there, they're shining bright. They're doing the work, they're participating, they're engaged, and they're there for each other. They're like the pillars of the group. And then there's the cloud guys who will come to the men's work, to the group when things are dark and stormy, right? And when the sun comes out, they'll go do their thing, frolic, and come back again when needed. And they're seasonal. And it's important to have both of them because the cloud men they have an example, like that lighthouse that we talk about in men's work is like that men's a lighthouse, right? He's a shining example of something that he's got something that I would like in my life. And so having the sun guys in your group is very important. Those are the men that you, as a facilitator, should what's the word I'm looking for? Like listen to them, right? They're your co-facilitators in a way.
Yeah.
They actually, many of them go on to start their own circles. And so they're important to have there. And then the cloud men are important to the sun men because now they know what the circle's for, who it's for. They're doing what they're doing because there's a guy out there who's going to come after a breakup and cry his heart out on the couch or whatever the case is. And it's important for him to be there.
Yeah. It's interesting because I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more, man. It's funny, you know, and it's funny because you see there are these waves of people who come and they'll be there for, you know, going through this arc, right? This arc of their life, this season of their life. And then once they get through that, it's like, all right. And then, you know, I always find it as an interesting, you know, people will say, oh, I'm going to come or I'm not. And, you know, I'm like, hey, we're here. Like we're here. I'm here. Doors open. Coffee's brewing. We're here. Like, I don't take it personal. If it's me and one other dude and we're having a conversation, sometimes those are the most impactful conversations, you know, and the ego always wants it to be packed. The ego wants it to be Madison Square Garden, right? Yet I know that that's not where the work is. That's not the important thing. There have been times it's been 3 of us, 4 of us. And you're like, that was the most impactful thing that we could have done.
Yeah.
And it's those moments that remind you of those two different people, but then also the importance of the work for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, you want it to be, it's crowded in here. Move over. Right. And everyone's tight and, we're getting extra chairs out of the back, and that's all well and good. But then there's something about it just being small and intimate. And you're like, this is what I actually do this for,
Yeah.
and
that's one factor for dwindling.
Right? Yeah.
Then there's like, some men get tired of the same thing all over again. And the way we run it, it's very much like we've got the 6 days a week, man. We got our 5 prompts throughout the week. We've got 3 calls a week. We got the 1 in person. We got the book club running. And, some guys just can't commit to the longevity of it.
Sure.
Right. Another thing was, our circle always has been for free. And so this year we changed that, because I learned that from a mentor of mine is that if they don't pay attention.
Yeah.
And so once I saw the engagement dropping, I was like, okay. And we don't charge any, like, we're not walking away.
Right.
We're not laughing to the bank with it.
Right.
But we have a very small fee, and it weeded out. I don't want to use the word weeded out, actually, but the men who have committed are like they're the sun men right now. They're my sun men in the New York City men's circle.
Yeah.
And just waiting for the cloud guys to show up.
Yeah, but I think it is important to. I don't think weeding out is the wrong terminology. I think it's sifting through, right? It is a sense of who's here for the work and who's here for the convenience, because those two things can't exist in the same way, right? And if the inconvenience is a fee or paying for a service, then again, not taking it personal, that's on, like, you're just looking to kind of, in doing podcasting, right?
Yeah.
There have been so many people, and I've used this example before, but I've said to people like, we should do a podcast. It's become a cup of coffee for me, like quite literally. Like, when do I get a chance to sit down with someone for an hour and a half and have a good, meaningful conversation? It's not easy, right? Dad, husband, all these, it's not easy to do that. So it has become a cup of coffee to me. And sometimes I throw it out, to a lot of people. I do, like, yeah, let's do a podcast because I love doing this. But then there are the people that, if it's not, I don't want to say on their timeline, that's not fair, but they're the people like, hey, so when are we doing that podcast? Right. Or, oh yeah, well, we should have done it already. Like, and they start to get a little bit like, oh, okay. So this wasn't about like having a conversation. This is something that you were looking to get out of this.
Oh, right.
Versus just, let's just do a podcast. And then there's people that I've talked about it over a year ago. And all of a sudden, it's like, I'm more of the mind of like, when it's meant to happen, it will happen.
Right.
And I don't put any, it's got to be this date, it's got to be this time. And I'm like, no. So I think that when you step into a space of facilitating men's groups, you are going to have the people that just show up seemingly like kind of a selfish way, right? Which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all going for ourselves, right? But then
Self-development.
It is, but there is a part of the self-development that starts to feed into the ecosystem. And that's where the real growth happens. That's where you're really of service, right? And again, that's not for everybody. But I do think that there is a sifting through the guys that are there for the actual work and convenience, right? And that's important.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm not mad at you for weeding out people.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's important. And I think it's important to the group itself because, then there's a disingenuous energy that's found its way in. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be of service to those guys and help those guys. But if they're only there because it's convenient and free, then what is that, what is that really doing? Right? Once the convenience part shuts down for whatever reason, are you really in the foxhole?
Right.
And that becomes a totally different, a new energy that you have to manage.
So so we found ourselves in like this new, fresh state, rebuilding now.
Yeah. It's fun, man. The men's work stuff is it's a lot. I just find it so again, it's jokingly I call Agora like my Noah's Ark. I'm like, this is what I was put on earth to build, right?
Yeah.
And to bring to people. And it is to be of service, right? And you have to kind of remove yourself from that sometimes.
When this came into my awareness
Yeah.
via the algorithm.
Yeah, was it the algorithm? I don't even remember how it came up.
Yeah, I manage the Instagram account for the New York City Men's Circle. Nick also has access.
Right.
I think Nick might have followed you. He's from the Bronx.
Right.
You guys probably, I don't know how it happened. So I'm logged in now in the account. What's this?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. So I when I reached out to you, it was just like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that I was in contact with the David Prize here in New York. And I got to the second phase. I don't know what's happening with it. I think it's a long process. We might find out by the summer how I'm doing. But basically, I was like, hey, I'd love this grant so I can open up a space per men to gather and like have this like almost like, you know how you like there's an urgent care for like, yeah, you want to walk in, you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, like not for x-rays, but for the
soul.
For the soul.
Urgent care for the soul.
So that's my pitch or whatever. And then I see this space. Oh my God. This is amazing. So I had to get in here, man.
Yeah.
And meet you and see what you guys are doing up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate. Yeah, there's something about the cultural zeitgeist, right? Like there's something that percolates. Yeah, for me it was just realizing doing these groups in all these different locations, you know, the coffee shop and Igor's, thank you to him, and you know, on Zooms and, you know, community spaces in apartment buildings and just bouncing around like, hey, and then who can't show up and they can't open. So they have to, I'm like, we have nowhere to do this, you know, this work. There's nowhere to have these conversations. And I remember I was talking to an old boss of mine. I was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, just want to have a space where guys can go and like do their thing and well, you know, whatever. And then, yeah, just kind of following that inclination and that feeling of like, this is what I want to bring to the world. This is what I want to bring to the world. And I think that these ideas percolate. I think that, you know, there's a book called Big Magic, and she talks about these ideas are always kind of floating around us, and they're like always looking for a home to be expressed. And yeah, I mean, I just was like, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing now.
I don't know if your audience has heard the story, but I'd love to shoot a question back at
yeah, please.
Gave me is like, so you're planning this place out.
Yeah.
Right? What is your wife? What is your family? What's everybody around you thinking at that time?
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of support. Luckily and graciously enough, there's a lot of support from everybody. I mean, you know, my wife, my family, they understood, you know, the work that I was stepping into. I think that I was showing up in all of my dynamics in a real different way. Going back to that earlier point of ours that we were saying is I was a new version of myself, or at least an upgraded version of myself. So it felt like a natural progression of things. I think probably the part that was most hard to wrestle with for people was, I'm the type of person that when I get something in my mind, that's it. Like, and we joke in my household because my son's like that and my daughter's like that. And my wife's like that too, but it's less in like these endeavors and she's more like pragmatic. So it was like, oh, I went from, I have this idea to like, oh, I signed a lease and we're painting and now I got this pictures and now we got this and that, you know, so it became like a very quick thing.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, again, going back to the earlier point, these things are looking for a home and they need to be expressed. And if I'm not the one that brings it to reality, someone else might. And it's not like a scarcity mindset, right? Because there's Burger King and there's McDonald's and there's amazing things, you know, there's all these different variations of the same thing. But it was just more of like the spontaneity of it.
Very much the same way, actually.
Yeah, I have to be.
You and I have a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
The stack the Thelonious Monk said there's so many different things, but I'm not an expert in any way, but you know about human design.
Yeah.
Are you a manifesting generator? That's what I fall under, and I feel like that's
I've never done like a formal.
So we've got the idea, but we've got to make it happen.
Yeah.
There's idea people, there's the people who make it happen,
Yeah.
and there's this guy, right?
Yeah.
He's like,
I would say yes, in the sense that I'm okay, and it's really served me in a lot of ways, more so recently with the expansion, the 2.0 and everything that we're doing, of one, not knowing, B, A, not knowing, B, being comfortable with that, and then C, knowing that we're going to figure it out. Like, I'm very much building the plane as we fly it. And that's okay, but it work. It's not comfortable. It sucks, when you're trying to figure out. I mean, things I've learned in the last year in building this and growing it and coming on. It's like you almost feel like a new I'm a new person.
Yeah,
like I have so much new information and data that it's like, oh, okay, like I'm a totally different person.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's insane. And that from a business mindset, right, which is a totally different world. That if you would have said that to me, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't have I'm not able to do that.
Right.
I don't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to get window decals on. I didn't even know how to. I was like, how do you even do that, right? But all of a sudden, you get comfortable not knowing things, and then all of a sudden, you get comfortable saying, oh, let me ask this person, let me find that out, or let me inquire about that. And whether it be from putting window decals on or finding out what a bit to positive means as a business, you're like, oh, I'm learning all this information.
Yeah.
And it becomes a whole new dragon to chase,
One of the highest ROI traits that I have is like talking a big game and then figuring it out.
Yeah.
Getting the yes from someone, getting the buy-in, getting whatever the case is, the investment, the green light, and then figuring out how I'm going to deliver on that. Just recently, actually. So we've got the New York City Men's Circle, but then a good friend of mine, Brian Hain, from an earlier circle I was in, we still keep in contact. He runs a small like check-in group every Friday, right? And I like being a participant.
Sure.
So I'll check in with them on Fridays. And another gentleman in that group was like, hey, I've got this thing I'm doing for New Year's. Instead of resolutions, we're going to draw a 5x5 square, like a bingo card. I'm going to put all our aspirations for the year in this bingo card. And then as the year progresses, we'll just check them off as they have it, right? And I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, it's great.
So we have a Zoom call. Everybody does their cards. And one of my squares was attend a seminar. No details, just that's what it was. January 9th, I'm in a seminar, right? That's just how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
I saw it. I was like, okay, it's on my card. Let me do it. It was for like public speaking or something. At least that's what I thought. Because I have like the speaking engagement that was coming up for like high school students on career readiness. And I was like, let me go brush up on some skills, maybe pick up something new. And I sure did. But the gentleman who runs the thing, his name's Paul Getter, he's like OG digital marketer. Like Facebook went to him to learn about running ads on Facebook before they had their ad platform.
Yeah.
He was like a beta tester. He's behind like some of the biggest like personal brands between like Kevin Hart, Schwarzenegger, all these people. He's been running ads for Gary Vee and Grant Cardone. Guy's a G, right? I go to the event. Whatever happens. I go home. I'm in this like free WhatsApp group that he's put 800 people in.
Fun. If I have one more WhatsApp group, one more shoot message, one more Instagram group.
Oh my God, yeah. So there's this.
I love you all, but my goodness.
There's this space, and he's in there, and he chimes in every once in a while, and he's asking like, "Hey, does anybody know of like an accounting software from my events. And people are giving him recommendations, right? QuickBooks, this and that, and they're all falling short. They either don't have enough features or too many, or it's not just what he was looking for. So here I come along, my opportunity. I love just like grabbing things, right? It's hot, I'm grabbing it. And like, I'm like, sounds like it's something we're going to have to build. All right. And he goes, let me know when it's ready. 3 days later, I had it ready. All right. Like vibe coded this accounting platform for him. And it's been about a month and whatever now, a month and a half. And still talking to his team, and we're iterating, and they're using it, and I'm getting feedback. Right. Taking anything personal, and we're improving it. And yeah, just put yourself out there, man. You know, and you never know what's going to come out of it. And like, I could have charged this guy 45, 50 grand for whatever the case was, even 30. But I didn't. And in return, I've received mentorship, connections. You know, he hooked me up with like his PR guy, his offer guy for this and that. And like, it's priceless. The relationships are priceless, right?
Yeah.
So pick a skill, get into a room you don't belong in, right? Growth doesn't happen in places you feel like you're qualified to be in. Like, go to places where you feel like you're not qualified to be in. And step into the discomfort.
Yes. Yeah.
And you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that discomfort thing is, I mean, again, you go back to jiu-jitsu, but that discomfort thing is, and you know, again, I think for guys like us, we've learned to step into that in knowing that that is part of the process. That is just as much, you know, and again, going back to this phase that I'm in with Agora and the expansion, I remind myself on a daily basis, I mean, sometimes it's throughout the day, right? Not just once a day, that the discomfort of all of this, the not knowing, the uncertainty, the, oh, fuck, right? That feeling is just as much a part of it as painting the walls and framing the pictures and having the podcast and doing all of that discomfort and sitting in that and being like, this sucks, but this is a part of it. And the minute you start to have gratitude for that discomfort, it's a totally different relationship with the discomfort.
Yeah.
When you could sit and go, I'm grateful that I feel uncomfortable because I'm pursuing the shit I want to be doing, because I'm stepping into the path that I want to be on. I'm grateful that this is uncomfortable, but I realize the importance of this discomfort and how it's going to change me in the future.
Yeah. And that goes with every other thing we talked about too. Like, I'm grateful for the way my boss spoke to me today about things I'm grateful for my wife telling me about the dishes or whatever the case was, the garbage. These are all opportunities for growth. And like, if you don't step into, and if you're not grateful for the discomfort, you might miss out on the opportunity of growth.
Yeah. And I think and you just said it like in that, like, I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling of being there, like, I'm going to like it's, and you negotiate with yourself, right? Because right. Right. No, fair point. I negotiate myself in that because there's a part of me that says, if I shoot this shot and it doesn't go anywhere, it's over.
Yeah.
The opportunity's missed, right? And if I keep it reserved, it's always there, but I never take the shot, right? So
which one's worse?
Right. What is worse, right? With never taking the shot, right? The old Wayne Gretzky, right? Or, you know, my thought is, all right, the worst thing that you throw it out to someone, whatever it is, what's the worst thing? It's a no. The second worst thing is they don't answer you.
Yeah.
Okay. It is what it is, right? Don't take it personal. Just keep on moving forward.
Dude. And fail.
Right.
And fail. So like, like a staircase, right?
Yep.
Is made up of a few different things in the world. Steel, wood, right? Whatever, stone, cement. These are the materials that make up a set of staircases. Steps, whatever. Success has a staircase. And the only material that can make up the staircase to success is failure.
Yeah.
You need to go through it to learn and iterate and learn and feedback and all this loop of constant improvement until you find whatever it is that you're looking for.
Yeah. And then you get to a landing and you get to go, oh,
Man,
and now you climb up again.
you get to have a podcast on these nice couches.
Yeah. And then you take a deep breath and you
Yeah.
continue to climb.
Yeah.
But throwing it out there to, I really love the idea of like there's two versions, right? It's like the guy who thinks it and the guy who does it. And then how do you bring these two worlds together? And, all of this stuff is unknown. It's all unknown. It's literally unknown.
Yeah.
The result is unknown, but there is something about showing up that is known. And that's how you get to the result that you want.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. That's not easy for a lot of men, especially, we or I or you or whoever steps into this role of society that deems this is who you are, this is what you do. And you mentioned it earlier, like heavily identifying in what you do. Guilty. Like I will say I on that one, right?
Yeah.
So heavily identified. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's also the second question, oh, what's your name? What do you do for a living? What's your name? What do you do for a living? Right?
I struggled with that so long because I didn't like what I was doing.
Right.
I didn't want to have to say it,
Right.
So did you overcome that, or how did you pivot on that?
Yeah. Some reframing, right? Yeah, if I could be vulnerable for
Sure, of course.
I grew up in with a single mother who is an absolute beast.
Right.
I love her. She's she's a very dynamic woman, and because of circumstances, she got into like the construction supply world in tile, right, and worked her way up, learned the business, created the connections, kicked ass. Then was let go of her job, right? From her job. And her friends and, her circle were like, what are you doing? Just open up your own place, and she was supported and there's actually a cool reel about her. So somebody did in the neighborhood in Astoria, like a local, like shops, people, whatever, Instagram thing. And I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it.
So you can see my mother in action. And so I felt, growing up in that business, I felt like I was always in like her shadow, right? That I was never going to be my own man because of her amazing and large accomplishments. And I was always looking for, and actually sometimes even to today, looking for something that makes me me. And so that's why, I took my artwork and became a designer in another sense. Like not just designing people's kitchens and bathrooms.
Right.
But I went to school. My brother and I had an idea for an app, and then we got burned for a lot of money, and developers never came through. And so he's very like analytical numbers guy. He became a developer, a pro software engineer. I became a user experience designer. And then we were like, we're going to make this app ourselves now, right? And instead we ended up getting jobs, right? So, and so he got a job as a developer. I got a job as a UX designer at the tennis thing. And then, the app is made. I made it, but so I hated answering the question of like, what do you do? Because I would always had to say, I work at my mom's tile shop,
Yeah.
I felt very like, not me. It felt like her thing. All right. And I failed to see that it's not like it's our thing. And I'm still there today. I help there and I do my own thing too. And, I speak about it with pride today. I love her. I love the space. I love the work. I love helping people like come in. They come in all confused, right? This is their home,
Right.
This is where they raise their children, or whatever the case is. And, and I make it a little more theirs. I help them do that, right? And so finding that golden thread between everything is like, so I'm a designer. That's now when people say, what do you do? I say, I'm a designer, because I design experiences for men. I help them design their lives, right? I design digital products. I design software for random people I meet at seminar.
Yeah.
And I could design your kitchen, bro. So I found myself in that, right? In my own way. And the story I say today is so much more empowering to me as I hear it, say it to myself, to others, than whatever that old story that I was living out was. That was that immature, that boyish, like, reframe it.
Yeah.
If you don't like what you're doing, reframe it. And if you can't, just fucking do something else. Seriously, you can be anything you want. Like, period.
Yeah.
The abundance of resources available to us, especially in this country, right? They are different for different people in different places, right? Even within our own town. But there's such an abundance and access to information and data and AI, and like, you can become whoever you want. Don't let anything or anyone or their opinions hold you back.
Yeah. Because they will. If you allow people to creep their way. Yeah.
It's that their opinions do nothing.
Yeah.
It's how I think you'll perceive me
Yeah.
that holds me back.
Yeah. It's shifting the relationship with yourself and this expressive self. But then when you're in the job and you're like, oh man, whatever, I don't identify in this, right? And that's the second question you're asked in 9 out of 10 circles that you're in, right?
Well, people just want to size you up. How much respect am I going to give you?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I want to know your salary.
Right. But then there is a component to that you're just like, I do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes, I have a buddy of mine who says, I live. I'm like, wow, what an answer. We're like, that's just like a gut check back, right?
Right. And that person just turns around and walks away.
Like, oh, fuck you, man. I'm not having this conversation. It's too hard to navigate that. Yeah, this guy, he lives. Okay, buddy. We get it. But he does. He does.
Yeah, well, good for him.
Yeah. And he will say that to you, like, without any hesitation, any stumbles. Like, and I think that's something that, especially for men, we so easily, and it can consume us in a lot of ways, good, bad, and indifferent, whether you're building the business that you dream of or you're working the job that you hate. There is this level of consumption that this role and this responsibility that we take on as men, right? Women for sure as well. But there's something internally for men that, dare I say, it's a little different, just maybe on a biological level or a social level, or whatever it is, that it does embed itself into who we are. And that does consume so much energy. And it's important to realize, and if you're blessed enough to have someone point that out to you, is to realize, like, both things can be draining.
Yeah. It might fall back to like expectations too, right? That weight that you're talking about, and the drain is like what I think society or people or whoever is expecting of me, right? And I don't know if it's exactly different for men and women, because I know a lot of women who struggle, dude. Like, they want to be home with their children, right? If they, and went to school and have this professional life and don't know what's expected of them, and they think the whole world is, and it might feel that way for them, and it's all true. And it might, I might even say it might be easier for men in this case, to move and be fluid with what we do. And man, I don't know. It's a whole other thing to unpack. I'm not going to speak on behalf of women,
Right.
ever.
Right.
But it's I don't think we've touched upon a topic tonight that was something easy to do.
Yeah.
I think it's the thread here, like whatever it is, we're putting ourselves into, whether it's a new men's circle, a new job, a new gi. It's all hard. And that's the point.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is really hard. And it's supposed to be, right? It has to be. And not everybody seeks that. Not everybody seeks that difficulty. There's a comfort level of people just, lowest denomination. It's like, oh, I'd rather be comfortable.
You ever met the mortgage guy?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the guy in the men's circle who's like, oh, I pay the bills.
Right.
What else does she want from me? Or whatever the big.
Yes. But I get that. I get that guy too, though. I can relate with that guy sometimes. Sometimes I could hear that man say that and I go, they felt the shocker for it,
Dude.
because
And the bills is like, to me, in my world, that's like 10% contribution.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the number, but
Sure. No, I understand.
There's so much more to do
Yeah.
in
But yeah, but then the
community.
yeah, 100%. And but there's also, the upbringing behind that, right? The reverse engineering, right? The story of people and how they show up in these groups or in your relationships or any of these things. And that's where for me, that's again, that's where I see a lot of the big, vast improvements in my life, is when I'm able to sit in a space and realize that someone's coming to this moment with an insurmountable amount of detail and life experiences that I could say, okay, I don't blame them for this. Is just
Their worldview.
right? And I have to respect that and honor that
Yeah.
to the best of my ability and not take it personal, right?
And not try to fix them either.
Yeah.
But one thing that I say often in men's work is like, I'm not here to father anyone. I'm not here to fix anyone. Right? I'm just here to like receive what you have. And if you need advice, you can ask for it. I'm not going to give it to you. Yeah. Worldviews, right?
Yeah. How has doing the men's work contributed to being a parent?
I want to talk about mirrors. My mirrors are 7 and 4.
Yeah. Mine are 11 and 6. The ultimate.
Oh my God, dude.
The ultimate.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, why are you speaking that way? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because I speak that way.
Yeah.
Why are you yelling at your sister? Oh my God. Because I've yelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the men's work has given me that awareness and capacity to see that from an objective standpoint and not be like in it so much. And I feel like an older version of me would have been okay with, I don't know, having like a blowout or something, and then just like telling myself I was right the whole time because they deserved it or because they shouldn't have done that, whatever.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not perfect in any way, and I'll still fall back into some patterns. But now I'm like, oh, I was out of line. Therefore, who's the adult here? Right. And now it's time to repair.
Yeah.
Right. And I think experts, because I'm not the expert, say that the key in relationships is that repair part. Through like parent-child relationships. And so it's like, get on it and get on it quick, bro.
Yeah.
You're the man in the house. So put your big boy pants on and go say you're sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, have no qualms apologizing to my kids. I had to do it today. We were sledding and whatever. They were like, there's a bunch, there's a bah, 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 bah. I was like, guys, I was like, come here. I was like, nobody wants to hear you. Like, no one wants to hear additional children. Like, they have their own kids they're dealing with. No one wants to hear your voices. Like, everyone's got to just chill out. And then my daughter's a little bit like embarrassed and all this stuff. And whatever, long story short, I was like, dude, I didn't mean, I totally apologize. Like, I have no problem.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong. Whether you're 6, 11.
Great example to set too, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not showing up as this perfect person.
Not even close.
You're showing them how to apologize.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, valuable beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if a spouse is a mirror, then kids are like the mirror in a dressing room where you look that way and that way. It's just infinite. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, did that 9th one move? Like, what's going? Yeah, they will push and pull you in directions that you didn't even realize you can go to, and stretch beyond your capacities in the best way and in like the worst way. And I think having this relationship with yourself that allows you to remove yourself from the dynamic, and you said it perfectly, like, I'm the adult here.
Right.
Like, so I have to lower my expectation. Not to say I don't have to have expectations for them, but I have to also realize, like, in my case, he's 6, she's 11. So I can't expect, there's 40 or 50 and 6-year-olds walk around the world who can't manage what I'm expecting them to manage. So I have to set my expectations there, but I also have to be realistic in what I'm expecting out of them. And then, to your point, I'm the adult and I really have to set the tone and set the expectation of how things are. And I'm not going to be perfect, and I'm going to scream, and I'm going to have my moments. But if I'm able to remove myself, even if it's afterwards, and say, oh, that wasn't the best, step into that new space for saying, hey, listen, I dropped the ball there, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
That seemingly, at least I tell myself, that moves things in a healthier way.
Yeah, 100%, man. I read a good parenting book. One of the things they brought through was like setting a frame, right? Boundaries.
Yeah.
Children are in a frame. Inside, they can do whatever they want. Let them bounce around, but not past the frame.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about like things like safety, respect, whatever the case is. Don't cross that line. But inside, man, they're just kids. Let them bounce around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta let them bounce around, or else they end up coming to men's groups.
I think men's groups should be mandatory.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially for dads.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a pre-dad course or something.
Yeah.
And I also think, and this is one of my more closed minded opinions, I'd say, is like, I think dads make better facilitators men's work than like a single free guy, like they've been through it, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them are broken men.
Yeah. There's another quote here.
Wait, but
The massive men lead lives of quiet desperation. So there's a quote on this wall for everything that we talk about. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man.
I really, I'm very grateful for you to, first off, you joined a group. I'm grateful for the support, and we were like, hey, we should do a podcast. I was like, all right, let's do it. And I appreciate you coming out in this snowstorm that we just had. And yeah, man, I really appreciate the conversation, and I love the work you're doing, and it's important work that we're doing and that you're doing as well. And yeah, man, I really appreciate it.
This is we.
Oh, I could say we. Okay, all right. It's important work that I'm doing. No, if people want to connect, if they want to join the circle, where can they find out more? Where can they find out your facilitator?
Go to my Instagram, which is Nick from Alchemia, ALC.
Is that what this is?
MIA, yeah.
Sure, never got that.
That's like my design.
Got it.
Then they'll find like tags to the men's circle, which is NYC Men's Circle, I think it is. Yeah. And everything else I'm planning and doing. I do a lot of different events, networking stuff, teaching people AI stuff now.
Oh boy.
And men's circles. We have a good one coming up. We don't have a date yet, but I think it's going to be in April, where it's like a 1-day intensive with 3 facilitators. One of them is an MMA champ.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing like mind, body, spirit kind of in one day. So it's going to be great. Yeah, just keep an eye out for that. I'll send you obviously all the
Send me the details and I'll post
So
it.
that's Nick from Leukemia and NYC Men's Circle.
Excellent.
But, thanks for having me here, man. Always love the opportunity to talk about what we do, and I'll be here for whatever this is.
I appreciate it. You're welcome.
2.0, 3.0.
Yeah, there'll be many. I appreciate it, dude.
All right, man.
All right, bud.